My name is Shaira and I've been shooting for the last 13 years. I shoot a lot of things for Summit, so if anyone is my age, you're probably going to remember Candy Magazine. Raise your hands if you remember. Oh my gosh, I was so heartbroken, but I love Candy. I also shoot for the other titles. These are some of my Cosmo covers, actual print covers. These were very fun times working with the Cosmo girls over there. Give them a round of applause. Each issue they really worked hard on. Even Miss Mirza is here. Shout out to Miss Mirza, one of the pillars of Summit. Okay, and this was my latest shoot for Cosmo, of course, the fabulous Maine Mendoza. Such a fun shoot. Yeah, these are I'm just showing you because some people don't believe I'm a photographer, so I feel like I have to show my work. So sometimes I go into a shoot and they're like, "Saan yung photographer?" I'm like, it's me. So yeah, and then these are also things for preview. I'm showing you a lot of the beauty photos I do just so you're gonna believe me later when I have some tips that it comes from somewhere. And this may be familiar to a lot of you. I just showed it para may kilig factor, but it's not related to my talk. Okay, and then I also shoot some books for Summit. So I did Solen's book, I did Everyday Cat, I did Kim, and I have to plug because I also have my very own book with Summit. And this is Playing Long After Us, which we launched last year. Yun lang, self-plug. Okay, and so a lot of my work is really kind of artistic and editorial photography, not necessarily beauty all the time. I shoot a lot of fashion work. I shoot a lot of commercial work. And oops. So you might see my work every day when you go down EDSA, when you go to the malls, when you flip through Instagram or Facebook. You may have seen some of my work. It's just not on my Instagram because, I don't know, I have so much work, I don't know what to post anymore. And of course, I had to include the one for Bello because Dr. Vicky was here, so I also do, these kinds of advertising. But I think most people, I guess the younger crowd, would know me more from my social media. My Instagram is, I would call it a very curated selection of the photos I do. I'm curious if anyone has seen my Instagram. Anyone? Okay, if you haven't seen it, it's instagram.com/ShairaLuna. And I think the thing that makes it unique, and I think the reason why I'm sitting here to talk about it is because I've been curating my feed for the last 4 years. So every single week or every 15 squares, I change the theme. And I know it sounds kind of daunting, and it really is a lot of work to keep up and maintain, but I've never really broken it. It's been consistent, even if you scroll down all the way. I think I've really tried to maintain it, and I'm really quite proud of my little baby. I feel like my Instagram is my baby. I spend so much time each week trying to put the photos together, and oops. So I think this is where I'm going to try to explain the fun ways to post on Instagram, because I think it goes hand in hand, taking good pictures and sharing them with the world. So let's start with posing. Who among here considers themselves an expert poser on Instagram? Anyone? Anyone? Nahiya sila. I can relate because I don't actually have many photos of myself on my feed, but I do take pictures of people, so I think I have a little something to say about this topic. I don't need to define what posing is, but basically it's placing someone or something in a situation to be photographed. It's as simple as that. Oh, here. And again, I'm going to be telling you or sharing some professional photography techniques that you can use with your phone, or even if you own a professional or non-professional digital camera. I'm sure you have one of each, or yeah, at least you have one of those. And if you're thinking you're going to get selfie tips today, this is not the day. I'm very sorry. I don't really know how I mean, I can probably experiment on how to take a selfie, but I will not be teaching you how to take perfect selfies today. Today, I think you're going to learn how to become that friend who takes photos of other people. So look at the person beside you, make yourself friends, because what you learn, you can apply to them. So yes, if you want to know me more, I am that friend who takes your perfect photos. That's me, which is why I don't have photos of myself. But yes, you will learn a lot today. Okay, so I'm gonna give 5 tips for posing and 5 tips for posting. And the first tip for posing is to remember that lighting is life. But sabi ni Albert, kilay is lifer. So I don't know which one you want to listen to. You can listen to both. So the thing about lighting is that every little, I guess, thing you move adds or removes from the portrait you're taking. This is a model in the exact same place, and I just changed one light, and immediately you can see a difference in the photograph. One has more contrast, and one is just generally more pleasing. It has more pleasing skin tones. So even from this example, you can tell that changing one thing can do a lot for your photograph. This is another example. So again, the same place. One is ambient lighting, which means the light that is already, existing. And artificial lighting may mean you add a flash, or you add a softbox, or maybe a continuous light. And I'm sure you can see the difference. Like with artificial lighting, the shadows are more filled. So it's really a matter of preference. Like not one is better than the other. It's really, your choice what to do. And this is the only technical part of the talk today. I'm only going to be telling you about hard light and soft light. Who can tell me what light is facing me now? Is it hard or is it soft? Hard, that's correct. So if it's hard, it means it casts strong shadows and it highlights texture. So generally, we don't use this for beauty photography because if you have lots of texture on your face, it's really gonna show and it's gonna be harder to edit. So if you look at a lot of the ads, you'll see that the light is very equal. It's because it makes the skin smoother. So soft light is usually what we favor in beauty photography because it's a large light source that spreads across the surface of your skin, and it just makes you look fresher and softer, and it's really more forgiving. Was that easy? Yes, very good. Good job, guys. Okay, so this is just a more concrete example. So hard light, that can be sunlight, after noontime light, and this is soft light. This was when the clouds were covering the sun. So this was taken like within 10 minutes of each other, but it's really the lighting conditions that will change the photograph. So in case you're wondering, where is the best place to take a beauty photo? Or in our case, your friend's beauty photo. I love putting my subjects beside curtains. Has anyone done this? You'll notice that the curtains really diffuse the light and nakakaganda talaga, nakakabango ng photo. So I'll just show you a few examples. So of course, this is the very beautiful Solen. Actually, si Solen, kahit naman saan mo siya ilagay, maganda talaga siya. But I'm just showing this as an example. So this was in her condo, and that's it. We were just in front of a curtain, and boom, perfect photo. You don't need to edit anything. And this is another example. It's also a bit darker, but you'll see that it's still very soft. It's very even. There aren't any harsh shadows that show wrinkles or fine lines because she was in front of a window. And then this is another shoot we did for Cosmo a few years back. I put her on the floor of a hotel, and there were these beautiful shadows from the curtains, but also it was diffused, so it still gave her that really, really nice skin tone. And believe it or not, hardly anything was touched in the photo. Maybe we adjusted the contrast a little bit, but with the perfect lighting, you can get a photo as beautiful as this. Okay, so the next light we're going to talk about is, well, the next kinds of light we're going to talk about are overcast lights, diffused light, and rim light. So overcast might just mean there are lots of clouds, maybe it was a really rainy day, and there's no rain, but it's just a very even lighting. So just think of the clouds as a giant softbox, and that generally will give you a very pleasing portrait. This is also another example of diffused light. So this was in a white room with a window, and the light was just scattered everywhere. So there's light from under, there's light from the side, and it's, again, very soft. If any of you are familiar with the photos I take, they're usually like this, very malambot. It's kind of my favorite kind of lighting. And this is just a variation. So this time we have light coming from above her, and she's facing the window, so you still have that very flat, flattering light. So let's go to one of my, I guess, more dramatic lighting, what do you call this? Lighting positions or lighting effects. So sometimes instead of shooting right in front of the window, I try to put my subjects under the window or behind the window. I think it gives a very magical, dreamy effect. And I didn't have any other equipment for this. It was just the light, and the pillow is reflecting the light into her face, which is why it looks like a dream. Okay, so you don't need equipment. You don't need a lot of equipment to do this. If I'm being honest, and I think a lot of the people I work with can attest to this, but I just use foil that you can buy from Japan Home or Daiso. It's really cheap. It's 66 bucks. If you're using your cell phone or a camera, you just hold it under and no one would know. If the sun is very harsh, I just use a see-through umbrella, and that will take away the harsh light. So yes, those are my very high-tech tools for shooting beauty. Here are some examples of using the foil. So pretend I'm the subject and the foil is here. The light coming from above will bounce up onto your face, and that's the effect. So as you can see, that's just natural light. And then this one is with my 66 peso foil underneath. And another example, even if she's Miss Universe, you can still use your aluminum foil and your cheap DIY things to create a really nice picture. Okay, let's move on to sunlight and shadows. These are just variations of the lighting, because if you take your friend and take their pictures, at least you know what to look for. Okay. So one easy example, one's in the shade, and then she stepped out, and sunlight. So it really depends. It really depends on your preference. Okay, I'm going to fast forward because I only have 5 minutes left. I'll skip this. So you have to use your eyes as well as your lens. Before you take the photo, I think you have to eliminate everything that's distracting. If there's trash on the side, if there's a person on the side, make sure it's very clean even before taking your picture. So here, you just crop the electric fan out. And next one. So there, you just move her to the side and remove the ladies' room. And this one, I was on a trip recently, and everyone was shooting the mosaic behind me. But I noticed the light coming through this window, and I'm like, everyone's shooting this way, but I saw that light, and I'm like, I'm going to shoot this one. And that's the photo that came out. So you have to train your eye to look for unusual lighting situations, and you're going to end up with surprising photos. So this is another example of training your eye to look for the perfect lighting situations. So the shadows are beautiful, but if you move just a little bit, you might be surprised because you might find something even better. And I learned this because when I shot Kath's book, I saw this in the barn, and then I'm like, I have to put Kath here. And we tried a few poses until we finally got it right. So, don't give up. If you see a lighting and it doesn't work, you just kind of have to move around a little bit. It's not that complicated. One more tip. I'm sure some of you are guilty of this, but please turn off your beauty mode, or at least put it to 1. There's nothing wrong with it, but I think in 10 years, if you look back at your photos and you see that the beauty mode is on 10, you might regret it. So we're all for being classic. So just go easy on the beauty mode. And explore the features on your phone or camera, and I won't expound because I have 4 minutes left. Okay, I'll just run through these. And okay, here's one quick tip, one more technical tip. If you know the pro mode or the manual mode on your camera, you can use this so that your photos are always consistent. They have one color, they have one white balance, and it's going to be easier for you to collate your photos. Okay, I'll just skip through this and let's go to posting. Can I extend 2 minutes? I hope I can extend. Okay, so when I was starting Instagram, I just posted anything I wanted. I didn't think of my feed. I would post work, I would post personal photos, and it was just okay. But the longer I was on the platform, I realized since I have so many photos, I think the best way for me to share everything is to organize them. And I started planning my feed. So with all the photos I had, I would categorize them in my free time. I'd organize all the purple photos into one folder, all the photos with bricks into one folder, everything that's 1970s, I would compile into one folder, and I would upload them to my Dropbox so that if I ran out of photos, I could just download them, and then that would be my feed for the week. I know it's a bit intense, but that's just me. So I started planning my feed. If I knew I had to post something pastel, I'd collect all the photos in my camera roll that had pastels in them. So if you can spot me, I have 4 photos in there, and the reason why everything else is pastel is because the shoes I had to post were pastel, so I made sure everything that week also matched. And one more tip is to stock up on photos and ideas. I know we have no shortage of photos. I know a lot of you are really full with your camera roll. So this is kind of an example of how I plan what I want to post. I have a checklist of stuff. You can do this with your own photos. You can do your vacation photos. You can do your work photos. You can do your family trip photos. It doesn't need to be super creative all the time, but I think it's a really good idea to kind of organize them into albums. And the longer I was organizing my photos, I thought to myself, I have to get creative with my squares. It couldn't just be like color after color. So at first I was doing like a rainbow thing, red, orange, yellow, green. And I did pastel until it got very specific. I would do beige and blue, peach and blue. Eventually I started putting borders just so that it was more cohesive. And then I got really creative. I started using film photographs, and I started using Instax photos. So it's just a really fun and easy way to change up your feed. And this is, I think, the most intense feed I've had. So I made collages by hand. So what I did was to collect photos. I cut them out, I put them on paper, I drew on them, and then I scanned them. So basically the whole week was just my collage photos, and I had really so much fun doing that. People thought it was an app, but you know, it's really, you can really do this. It's another example. Okay, I'm almost done. I think it's great to find apps that work for you. If you look at my phone, I really only have 4 apps that I use all the time. I use Snapseed, so that's to kind of add tint or warmth. I use PhotoGrid to add borders. InShot I use for videos, and Preview is just so that I can view my squares. So very easy to download. And this is an example of how I did the borders with PhotoGrid. And this is Preview. You can just plan your Instagram feed. And this is my last tip. Just pose and post away. From all the tips a while ago, I'm sure it's going to be very easy for you to find photos to take, to find places to take photos of your friends in. And you know, I think it shouldn't matter so much if people like your photos or if you engage too much. I think the important thing is that you enjoy what you're posting and you feel satisfied when you see your photos on your grid. Honestly, the best photos of mine never really get a lot of likes, so I don't really care. I just post what I want, and that's always going to be okay. And yeah, I now have 4 Instagram accounts because I can't make up my mind, so they're all here. And yeah, I hope today helped. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy curating your Instagram feed. You guys.